Okay, how's everybody doing? Welcome back to my channel and the cash game challenge. I'm recording this on the 25th of June. This is a session from Friday last week. I picked this session because it went very well for me. I won a couple of buy-ins, but I also think I played really good poker for the most part in the session. So yeah, I was quite happy with it. So I thought I would just show some hands. These are some of the bigger pots that I got involved in, but there were, I played like 500 hands in a day. I just want to like feedback and say because I don't realistically have any chance of placing anywhere in the challenge because I joined very late. I decided to just play one table as I played my normal sessions, and yeah, so I've just been one table in basically. So I've done like 1500 hands the whole challenge, and I'm up maybe 2.5k or something. So yeah, we'll keep trying to like end. I don't know actually even know if I'm gonna keep playing. I mean, it's very fun to play, um, because it's very competitive, and you're against good players that are trying to own you. But at the same time, the only reason I am playing is for content. I'm not really grinding for profit because I'm not even sure if I am profitable long term in the game. But I am enjoying playing coin poker games regardless because between the rake the lack of rake on this, and then playing the rake tables, grinding, you get a deposit bonus, so you can get 50% rake back on your deposit bonus. Plus, they give you normally about 30, just over 30% flat. Between all of that, I'm paying probably just over one big blind in rake. So yeah, that's my net rake is just over one big blind. Coming from playing GG, where even after rake back, I'm probably still paying like 6 or 7, sometimes even 8 maybe. I don't know, probably closer to 8 to be honest. From 200 now. Like coming from that environment to this environment is like completely different because I'm actually sitting there and I'm like reg battling on like, just any games, just trying to grind this rake back. But I didn't want to focus on this challenge because, um, well, the players are tough, but also I'm not generating any rake, so it doesn't count to my bonus. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I would have focused on it if I had started. It wasn't on vacation for the first like 2 weeks of the challenge. But anyway, that's enough of the introduction. Let's go through some hands. We're going to start with King Queen. We open from Mephis. This guy I definitely know. I think he's a stars reg. He's definitely doing well in the challenge. In fact, most of the players here are doing well because, like, at this point, a lot of the players who just basically didn't run good at the start just quit. Most of them. So yeah, a lot of the ones left are just battling. It's almost like a tournament in a way. The ones that run the best win, but also the best players will also have a very good chance at winning as well. Because like the ones who aren't good enough would eventually fade off. If you play 500,000 hands, it would be pretty clear who are like the best players. Anyway, if we bet call A7 deuce, we decide to bet generally with range. Not expecting too many raises in this situation. Players don't often like to play raises here, so probably do get away with range bet. If we did get raised, I think I would mix hand as free bet on the flop. He would just get flatted, and then on the 6th turn, what I realize is we do want to mainly keep barreling with the Queen of Hearts, blocking Ace Queen. I thought like this kind of combo would be good. We don't want to have King of Spades because like he's gonna float like things like King Jack, King Ten of Spades. So we want him to fold King Queen of Spades, etc. But yeah, King of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds, I thought was pretty good because he also just doesn't like call really with like Queen X of Diamonds that much. I think maybe he's supposed to call some King Queen of Diamonds, but like it's not much. But what I realized is this combo would be very low frequency play. I thought it would be much higher frequency than it did, so I barreled it. He called. Then the river comes here. Just not a very good combo to bluff, in my opinion. He's just gonna have like a bunch of King Jack, hearts and stuff, which will probably show down want to showdown, so like we are removing some of the folding range. That being said, I do think the calling range is mostly around a6. If you were feeling really ambitious, I think you could blast this combo to try and see if you could make him fold a hand like ace5, ace8 suited, ace9 suited, but like also his range will just contain like so many slow plays like sevens, deuces, ace7 suited, maybe even ace2 suited pre-flop might call. Sometimes ace6 suited might call because it's remember this is chip EV range. Ace10 obviously is going to be in the range. 7-6. A lot of potential hands. So not to overbluff, he rips it in. We obviously fold. He actually is bluffed this time because he has the queen nine of hearts. So nicely done by Memphis. Ace10. This is a semi-interesting hand which I might look into theory. We get free bet. We call. Thinking playing pure flat here with this hand. Chip EV range. Again, Nan Smasher. I don't actually know this guy. I do know that he likes to smash Nans, which is fair play. He goes small, king 6-4. We could potentially sometimes raise his hand, but like mainly just gonna flat this. So we flat. Turn comes here. So here I want to check a lot on the turn, sort of in general. But I know I do have like the possibility I could play a split range, like play different sizes, because it's double flush draw. Especially. I do think there's a chance I could get check jammed on if I go for like 75 sizing, so I could possibly, maybe I would prefer to like split and do a bit of a smaller sizing potentially, but like my default would be to go 75% here. Not always going to bet a flush draw, probably want to bet more of my like backdoor spade draws in general on the turn. It's just a spot where it's like really difficult to like find a lot of like good bluffs that can go bet turn, bet river. It'd probably be like around the like the 8-7 spades region, something like that. Those would be like sort of the main ones. So we were gonna mix this as a check. We did check, and then the river we hit the flush. He checks again. Here I think I'm gonna just mainly value bet my king X here. I could play a jam size with this hand, but I think I decide to sometimes play my nut flush in a way where I'm just like putting it in the range where my king X is. Not for any particularly good reason. It's just that in this, I don't know the player, but like my sort of impression is in the pool players are like very willing to like bluff. If with hands like, say he has eights with a diamond. But like he's also very willing to like bluff catch probably. So if I just jam the river with this hand, I think I can get caught regardless by some of these hands. So I'm not actually convinced this is the best play. But I do want to sometimes mix these hands in there, so I decide to do it. But I will just say here and now, you probably want to just jam here, especially when players don't like to fold. Anyway, he rips it in. Obviously I snap, but he's got king jack. I thought this was an interesting hand for him to check jam. I think is perfectly reasonable, but like I thought it was interesting he decided to check this hand. He probably put me on a lot of like potential hands. I don't know. I don't really know. He probably just put me on a lot of like pairs, but I'm very likely to take most of them to showdown. So I really don't understand why he doesn't value bet here. Personally, I do think this is an interesting hand to at least somewhat look in the solver at. So we'll skip to that. So yeah, here in the solver, he faces a small c-bet. We're not using chip EV ranges. I just can't be bothered to do a deep dive analysis. You can see sometimes raising. Now I could solve this to one side. I still think you'd have a similar sort of result. You want to favor more raising like the ones that are lower with backdoor straights. But anyway, I digress. Then he plays check with a hand that would, at least in this sim, almost pure value bet, which is fine. And then turn I would be supposed to have a pure bet. mainly favouring checking ace jack and ace queen, uh, which is something. I mean, I was definitely would have I definitely would have bet this region almost pure, but like this region, I was thinking more about checking for sure. But like the ace 10, I thought I could just mix it, and I was wrong. But the thing about these kind of things is like they're so complicated, and sometimes they don't even matter that much. In fact, most of the time they don't matter. Like if you want to like have a mixing strategy, it's pretty easy to just take like hands and then just mix them. Like if your overall frequency of nut flush draw is like you want it to mix, you can just take every hand and mix them. It's like it's not going to make a big difference. But yeah, that's what occurred. And then he checked the river with King Jack. The solver would sometimes check the river, but you see, like the hand is almost never in this node because it's always betting a turn, which would makes me think that had I actually stabbed a turn, you see, 50% would have probably been the preferred solver sizing. Like he would play like if he ever like comes up, he would probably have played like check jam with his hand because I could have been perceived that I'd be overstabbing flush draws. But yeah, sorry, this was a small blind. If I had stepped the turn 50 or 70, he would have possibly played check jam. You can see it's pure check jam in theory. The final thing is like when we hit the Jack River comes, like he plays obviously mostly a block with his hand or a 60% bet. If you can see it here, mostly a block. But like if we face the check, we could see like we want to jam our flushes. So if we ever arrived in this node with a nut flush, let's just pick one like ace queen. You just have a pure jam here. So you see what I was kind of saying was like, in terms of the way I played the hand, it probably wasn't the best, but you don't really know what their ranges are because like it turns out his range just has more of these hands than I thought. Or I thought it would mainly, so it just has more of these hands here around the middle, where I thought it would mainly be these hands. But yeah, anyway, we value bet for about this size. And obviously, you can see two pair in this node is supposed to check jam, which he did. You can see some of the bluffs like eights with a diamond and sevens with diamonds check jam. But I just think that's the kind of hand where, you know, things just go a bit differently for reasons you don't really understand. I thought it was somewhat interesting to explain. Onto tens. So 1-1-45. This is the guy who is probably going to win the whole thing. He's up a good 15 to 20 buy-ins in EV right now. I don't 100% know who he is. He's known in the community, but I do know he's winning. He also, just from playing against him, he seems pretty solid. So like, I played a few hands versus him, and he just seems like he knows what he's doing, kind of thing. And he's aggressive and capable. But yeah, we get this one. So I would just range bet this like versus like most opponents, but in this spot I decide if I'm gonna play like 50% as a size. I mean, you probably could play 30% here as more of a preferred size, but if you're going to play 50%, you're going to mix checks, tens without hearts. This just seems like the perfect checking combo. Probably a hand that you'd want to check quite often. So I decided I check it. And then we hit the turn here, he uses 125%. Now this is a sizing, this is a good size. His value, he's going to be value better than like good queen x plus. And checking other parts of his range. Tens here, we want to start, we're actually pretty close to indifferent anyway. I think, unlike, I might even consider folding this on low stakes. But because like this guy is basically using his size because he knows it's the size that he wants to use, probably the best size in theory. Whereas a low stakes player might just use his size because they have a good hand. But it could be the same thing. I'd probably even start to fold this. I know like tens with a heart would want to start folding more. This one, I think this one would be mostly a call. And then we called, and then we just hit a turn on the river. So even though this guy is the luckiest / best player in the challenge so far, I've outlocked him on this occasion. He rips it. I thought this was interesting. Obviously, it took me about 5 seconds to call instead of snapping, because when he ripped it, I had to think, is he repping a flush here? And then I stopped and I thought about like his turn sizing, and then I realized he would definitely just value jams a set here, so we just have a snap. We should just be calling. But like, I think it's always important to just like think about the hand a little bit before you make a call. Just because you don't want to like you know, not think through the hands long enough. Because I wouldn't say I like slow rod the guy, but I did take about 5 to 10 seconds to call because I was thinking more like, does he actually, is this line actually just like, do I be valuing the line? Basically, I had to think about it for a second. Also, when you're playing like as many tables as I was playing, you do get lost sometimes in hands. He had ace queen. Now this I thought was interesting because I would think he would want to block his hand on the river, and not jam it, and like jam sets him better. But he went for a jam, and I'm kind of curious about like looking at like what happens if I don't mix flush draws in as a check. I mean, you saw on that ace 10 hand, I'm definitely happy to mix in flush draws in as a check, even as the pre-flop raiser. But like, but like, what he's done here is he's assumed that like I don't have flushes in this line, I think, and he has decided to, you know, just value jam, rip the river, and hope. I'm guessing he's trying to be cool, but like jacks of heart, or like you know, nines of heart, or like weaker queen X, I check the flop back with. Like a queen jack hand might sometimes check. You know, queen nine, these sort of hands. This is what I'm guessing his plan is in this occasion. But yeah, let's have a look at some AI solving. So yeah, here's the actual line in theory unsolved by AI. And then I decided to AI solve it, so we use sizings that I would have used. Just go through the hand, you see very mixed strategy. Well, I think one thing is important here is to like look at the frequency of like flush draw in position player is supposed to check. If we just filter down to flush draw, you can see it's a 25% check. I think this is kind of important at this point. But yeah, you see tens is in there. This combo is in there almost pure actually. And then you can see the turn bet sizing, there's the sets, there are some of the draws, so the flush draws. You know, some of these trashy hands like ace 8 suited and king 10 suited just in there, mainly in there for blocking like the sort of hands like the queen X that I would have favoured checking, like the spade potentially. And yeah, like king queen is like probably the worst hand you value bets. Yeah, we call our hand is one of the main calling hands. The tens with the hearts aren't as preferred. As when I said like I would consider folding this on low stakes, I wasn't lying, because like if the guy isn't finding like these certain combos, potentially you are in trouble. And we get to the river now. You see here there is obviously a jamming range. He's bluffing with things like 6-5, pocket fives of a heart, 8-7, yeah, ace 8 suited. He is actually going to try and show down his 10x for the most part. There's sometimes for some reason king 10 of diamonds is jamming. I'm guessing it's you probably sometimes folding like jacks off or something. But you can see like ace queen, king queen. These hands are just like basically betting 25% almost always. And I thought it'd be interesting to solve this node from here on the flop and just change this part here and just try and go through what his assumptions probably are in this spot, because I think this is a useful thing to do. Let's just select these hands. So I've made it 100% check. This is all we're going to do. We're going to just node lock. We're not going to like do anything else. We're just going to node lock this. I probably should. We still have like some pocket queens checks and stuff like that, but like now we just should have flush draws, just pure check it, and I like see how this changes the solution when we face the line that we face on the turn. So it hasn't changed a huge amount on the turn, apart in terms of the value region, but like you can see, like when it comes to bluffing, like there's just way more of these ace 8 of spades just perform way better. Like these actual hands that will mix it as bluffs, they're now not doing it because they're going to get called. They before they weren't doing it as much because they were going to sometimes get called by flush draws. But now they're doing it. Now it doesn't change our hand particularly, but you can see like how the frequency has changed. But like, what does it do to the river? Not knowing that I don't have flushes in the range. It was a jack of hearts, right? I just double checked that. Oh, it was a 10 of hearts. Let's just make this perfect. So what does it do? You see the AI has now changed its sizing scheme and it's sizing up with ace queen on the river. It's still not jamming, but it is sizing up. So when it comes through like these assumptions from villain, as an exploit, you can see why this player is doing so well. He's kind of made the sort of a correct adjustment of thinking that this guy doesn't have flushes in his range. Therefore, I could value bet thinner. So, and I can size up my value when I want to value bet my hand, kind of thing. So he's realized basically with ace queen he can size up his hand. Now it's slightly better play in theory to go 67 because then when he does run into things like tens and queens, like I mean I would have probably found the value jam with tens, thinking he would shove his flushes, but like when he has like when I have like a hand like king queen, and like these weak queen x hands, you know, I would sometimes pay more. Whereas if he does this, like I'm generally just gonna fold more of these hands. But yeah, I think I'll be completely honest with you. When it comes to like picking this size or this size, I don't think it actually matters that much because like, what is the difference between this size in here and what I do with my range here? I'm gonna jam 20%, call 37%. If I rip here, I'm gonna call 42%, 58% fold, right? Like, the point is like the whole volume of my range that comes in here is going to be like 57%, right? But like some of that range you can see here is going to beat his, you know, this is going to beat his ace queen. You can see like about 20% of the range is going to beat his ace queen here. So but like when he shoves like this, I mean he's still going to be against the same range, but he's going to get called less by. He's supposed to be called less by this part of the range, but like at least if he does this and I rip it, he could possibly even fold, knowing that like I potentially never have a bluff here. Because like I'm supposed to just like randomly rip an ace four of diamonds upon occasion, but like what I'm trying to say is there isn't much of a difference between what he did and what the solver's doing. The only thing I do know is exploitatively, the assumptions he made were very strong, and it's a sign of it is a sign you're playing against a strong. And I'll say this also, it's like when you face players who they will use like very theoretically sound sizings on the river, that's generally a good thing. Like I wouldn't say that would be a sign of a player who's like, you know, they're a good studied player and they're a defensive player, but they're not trying to own you, because they're respecting the fact that you might have hands in your range which you probably don't have. I'm not saying I don't have flushes here. I'm just saying like most players you play against don't have flushes here. Okay, this is another hand. This is actually probably my favorite hand that I played. Against I have Jack Deuce off, Jack 9 suited. Now I want to say like in theory this hand would be a pure free bet. In chip EV this would mix. I did do some Chippy V study before I started playing the challenge. Focused. I mean, I did like try and like figure out subtle differences in every spot, but I did a lot of focus on like blind v blind, button v big blind kind of play. So around this like formation, I did try to figure out some of the free bet stuff, but like this sort of the most common spots like this, I did some work on. Jack 7-6, e bets. I could mix my hand as a raise. I decided I would flat on this occasion. I do believe in game I did mix, and we had the trips turn. He's 1/3 on the flop. I should have like a lot of Jack X that he might not have, so being Chippy V ranges. I also have like quite a wide range. You know, I'm gonna have some low frequency like Queen 9 of spades that like mix call and raise flop, for example. So yeah, he checked the turn, and then here he uses 200%. Now this I think is very interesting because he's gone from like on this turn I wouldn't expect to see a size bigger than 125%. Because it's a type of texture where, but like I would definitely mainly expect to see 75%. And it's a type of texture where like I definitely have like a decent amount of Jack X here. I also have like a weaker range that like, so like, and he definitely has like a stronger range. But like the way the equities will shift after he gets the flop, kind of like equalize the spot. So when he uses this size, and he is, instead of building his range around like maybe some overpairs, you know, or like pocket tens and trying to get value from a 7, because I'm gonna sometimes check raise the flop with my strike Jack X. He's starting to build his range around like good Jack X plus, maybe even just Ace Jack plus, King Jack plus potentially. And I think here this reminds me of something that there was a video by Charlie Carroll where he was talking about how you do range analysis. Now, in the hand, he said something like, if you get a spot where you have a set and the board pairs, a good exploit is to massively overbet the turn, because you just want to get value from, you just want to stack trips. And that will probably work against a lot of players. However, in this situation, I kind of already put his range to be a certain amount. I called my hand, and I wanted to see what he did on the river first, and he just shoved. He's shoving for the 275% pot. No, he didn't shove. Sorry, he bet 150%. And like now, I'm just trying to put him on the range. Like it's a paired board. He's representing Ace Jack better, in my opinion. So I have a bluff catcher. He has to put in 37% of his range as bluffs. Most natural bluffs here, maybe something like 5-4, you know, 8-5 suited, 9-8 potentially, 10-9 potentially. The diamonds would be like, make some sense. But I just figured that based on the turn sizing being 200% and then he goes 150, I just think this is I just thought this was a very strange hand. His name is I have Jack Deuce off, so I actually asked him in game if do you just have Jack Deuce off. He didn't respond. That's a shame. I just figured I would just fold this hand because I have the 9, and like I didn't even think I would like even bluff catch here, like anything that wasn't better than like King Jack, to be honest. Because of the turn sizing and the fact that he's probably splitting his size on the turn, and when people start splitting their size, they will have one sizing that's really underbluffed and one that's overbluffed. And it's pretty obvious this guy's overbluff size is going to be 70 and his underbluff size is 200%. And like, what happens is he did exactly the thing Charlie Carroll said you should do. You go 200% on the turn to try and stack a jack, but it's not working against me. Sorry, bro. Yeah. Oh, this hand is crazy, by the way. I was just like skipping over it, but like I'm just gonna go through it again. If you see, like, look at this. I don't. I think this guy might be a recreation, but I really don't know. Didn't really look at his name, but like, call small blind, two export the turn, ace jack, and then we have bad river. We're not going to value bet. We're only going to put more money into the pot with like 2 pair plus at this point. So we check back. King jack. He called the turn with king jack, a 200% turn bet. He called with king jack with the heart and the diamonds, so he could presumably what? So if I shoved the river here, he could bluff catch with his hand. Just somebody explain this to me. Okay, we're playing against Nimrod. 10-4-3. Nimrod has been growing quite a lot. The challenge, he's in the top 10, I think. He's 50. 10-7. I just want to go back to pre-flop in chippy V ranges. Even though I had studied, I was sure that 10-7 offsuit would mix pre, so I mixed it. I don't actually think this is correct in hindsight. You can double check it. He goes 50, we have a clear call in my opinion. Ace turn, he goes check check river. Here we obviously clearly have a value bet, he checks and he goes over bet. He's repping like king queen, 2 pair plus basically when he does this line. But remember, some of these players are capable of like finding the overbets with like thinner value bets. But like the thing about this spot you have to think about is he doesn't really like. He should really bet the turn mostly with ace king, ace queen kind of hands. Ace jack, ace 10. He might sometimes have like ace 10, like check the turn or like aces kind of thing. But like the way people tend to approach the spots is like if they're gonna take a spot where they like go for thin value with top pair, it wouldn't be this one because I'm gonna check this river with like a decent amount of ace x because of the ace turn. So I'm going to have like some of the weaker ace x in my range here. I'm also going to play like some blocks and like around that part of the range, and then maybe like some 75s or like some small overbets, depending on like if I have flushes or 2 pairs, or like overbets and that kind of thing. But 10-7, we're just pure checking. We're trying to show our hand down with like 8s and 7s and like these kind of hands. Maybe he just gives up with like king 4. These sort of hands would exist potentially. But then he uses this, so my opinion of the hand was like, I mean, the 7 of hearts, I'm not sure it really matters if I have the 7 of hearts. To be honest, I would have called this without the heart. To me, it just seemed like he was, like, the 10 is way more important here. Yeah, I think the main hand that also would make some sense is pocket jacks, but I think the thing about pocket jacks is pocket jacks can still value bet here if he uses like 50% on the turn. Because I'm going to have like a lot of 10s here. Yeah, so we catch, and he just has queen on off. Unsurprisingly, this is the nuts. I just say I had the flop here. We decided to raise our hand. We mixed the raise, and in the turn we hit this. There's no point in our hand to bluff because we want him to fold like queen x and king x. And like he's going to have things like pocket 10s, 9s, and 8s with a heart. We check and he bets the river 70. Decided it's probably just very underbluffed. He's probably likely to bluff with a queen himself, so we just fold. BVB, we go for check call. He pots turn, we go for turn call. Check river. Potentially could have led here. He decided not to fire the river, possibly influenced by the previous hand. I don't know. Maybe he just thought the ace was like good for me because I'm gonna call here with stuff like ace queen and ace king. And I'm gonna have like some 2 pairs, ace 4, ace 5, these kind of hands, ace jack obviously. So he probably decided he want to fire his hand that often. But I still think he should possibly bluff here. But I'm guessing he probably would have favoured using a queen as a bluff, is my guess. So he didn't want to like bluff this spot. Ace king, pure squeeze. Potentially should go a bit bigger. He's calling. We range him on. Well, it doesn't really matter because I seem to remember he folded the turn. Still value betting this. Okay, so we're just going to show you the graph of the challenge. About 2.5k is the all in EV. The sample is obviously very, very small. It's a very, very small sample, you can see here, but we have started pretty nicely. I would love to see some of the graphs of the crushers and just see how like nice they look. Yeah, overall quite happy with it. I'm not sure how many more hands I'll play. I'll probably stop when I hit at least 2k hands. I'd probably not, because I just want to see if I can win with profit. And I've got plenty of content realistically. So yeah, that's enough for today's review. I'll catch you guys next time.